Have you ever wondered where our laws actually come from? Well, today we're going to travel way back in time, almost 4,000 years to ancient Mesopotamia. We're going to look at one of the first and most important legal documents ever made, Hammurabi's Code. So, why should we care about some ancient laws carved on a rock? Well, you're about to find out.
Okay, so to really get why this code was such a game changer, we have to picture the world it came from. A world that was basically crying out for some kind of order.
I mean, really, try to imagine it. No official rulebook, nothing written down for everyone to follow. Anytime there's a disagreement, it's just handled, maybe by the strongest guy in the room or the richest. It's just total chaos, right?
Exactly. How could you ever prove someone stole from you? How would you make sure a deal was a real deal? What does justice even mean in a world like that? This was a huge problem that pretty much all ancient societies were wrestling with.
And into this chaos steps a very powerful ruler with a solution. His name was Hammurabi. Hammurabi was the king of Babylon, which was a major power center in Mesopotamia back in the day. And get this, he ruled for over 40 years. During that long reign, he wasn't just about conquering territory, he was really focused on building a stable society. And that was his big idea. He wanted to pull his entire, very diverse kingdom together under one standard of justice. His goal was to replace all that chaos with order by creating one single, easy-to-see set of rules for everybody.
So, how'd he pull it off? I mean, he didn't just write a book and hope people would pay attention. No, he made his laws into a huge public monument, something you literally could not ignore. Let's dig into the artifact itself.
He came up with a code made up of 282 specific laws. And that's a ton of laws covering just about everything you can imagine. But what's really fascinating is how he decided to show them to the world. He had them all carved into this massive stone pillar called a stele. And this thing wasn't locked away in his palace somewhere. No way. It was put right in the middle of a public square where everyone could see it. The message was crystal clear. Here are the rules, and they apply to you. The laws were written in this ancient script called cuneiform, essentially locking them in stone. Literally. Think about what a brilliant move that was. It made the law permanent and public. That was a completely radical idea at the time. It took justice out of the hands of a single ruler and turned it into a written, established standard. Okay, so now we know how the laws were displayed, which is cool enough. But what did they actually say? Let's decode the principles that made this code so famous and, honestly, a little notorious. This is it. This is the phrase everybody knows, an eye for an eye. It's really the core idea behind Hammurabi's whole system. The basic concept was simple. The punishment should fit the crime, almost perfectly. It was a very direct and very easy to understand form of justice. And this idea was applied to pretty much everything. The code was unbelievably detailed. It laid out rules for marriage, regulations for farmers, and of course, punishments for crimes like theft. For example, one law said if a builder puts up a house that falls down and kills the owner, the builder is put to death. It was basically the complete instruction manual for how to live in Babylonian society. But, and this is a huge but, here's where things get very different from our modern sense of justice. Fairness was definitely not universal. The punishment you got depended a lot on who you were. So if a rich nobleman hurt a commoner, the penalty might just be a small fine. But if a commoner hurt that same nobleman, well, that could be a brutal eye for an eye punishment. So the key takeaway here is that it was a system of laws, for sure, but it wasn't a system for equals. For them, this was all about keeping the social order just the way it was. Even with its flaws, and it definitely had flaws, the code's influence was absolutely massive. It basically laid the groundwork for how we think about law and government, even thousands of years later. Just think about these three ideas, which were so revolutionary back then. First, laws have to be written down. Second, the government, the state, is in charge of dishing out justice, not just random people. And third, everybody needs to know what the rules are and what happens if you break them. I mean, those principles are the absolute bedrock of almost every legal system in the world today. So yeah, we can look back and see the inequalities pretty clearly, but we can't forget what an incredible step forward this was. Hammurabi's Code was one of the first big attempts in human history to build a society based on laws, not just on who was strongest. And that brings us to a final thought to chew on. Hammurabi put his 282 laws up on a stone pillar for everyone to see. So if you had that same power today to carve one single universal law for the entire modern world to see, what would it be? Thanks for joining me on this one.